What if I told you that the greatest architectural marvels in human history were built not by slaves, but by well-fed workers who received medical care and proper burials? What if the techniques used to move 2-million-ton limestone blocks were far more ingenious than Hollywood has ever shown us? And what if the real secrets of pyramid construction have been hiding in plain sight for over 4,000 years, waiting for us to piece together the remarkable story of human ingenuity, back-breaking labor, and ancient engineering that defies our modern understanding? Tonight, we're going to uncover the colossal secrets behind building the Egyptian pyramids. And I guarantee you'll never look at these ancient wonders the same way again. But first, let me ask you something. Where are you checking in from tonight? What time is it where you are? Whether you're winding down after a long day, settling in for the evening, or perhaps it's already deep into the night, wherever you are in the world, I want you to know that you're part of something special here. You're part of our growing community of history enthusiasts who find comfort in the stories of the past. If you truly enjoy these boring history stories that help you relax and drift off to sleep while learning something fascinating, please consider hitting that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to join our community of fellow history lovers. Your support means everything to us, and it helps us continue bringing you these detailed explorations of the past. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. What historical topic would you like us to explore next? Or simply let us know where you're checking in from tonight. Every comment helps build our community, and you are an important part of what makes this channel special. Thank you for your continued support. Now, before we begin our journey back to ancient Egypt, you might want to turn the lights down, maybe put a fan on for some gentle background noise, and get comfortable. We're about to transport you to the banks of the Nile River, over 4,000 years ago, where the greatest construction project in human history was about to unfold. Picture this. It's dawn along the Nile River, approximately 2580 BCE. The sun is just beginning to peek over the eastern horizon, casting long shadows across the Giza Plateau. You've been awakened not by an alarm clock, but by the sound of thousands of workers beginning their day. The air is already thick with dust and the scent of cooking fires, and your body aches from yesterday's labor. You are a pyramid builder, and today, like every day for the next 2 decades, you will help construct what will become one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. But let me be clear about something from the very beginning. Forget everything Hollywood has told you about pyramid construction. You are not a slave. You are not being whipped by cruel overseers. You are not going to die forgotten in the desert sand. You are, in fact, part of an elite workforce, a skilled laborer who is well-fed, well-housed, and well-respected in ancient Egyptian society. But that doesn't mean your life is easy. In fact, it's about to become one of the most physically demanding experiences imaginable. Your day begins before sunrise, around 4:30 in the morning. The foreman's assistant is already moving through the workers' village, a specially constructed settlement that houses the estimated 20,000 to 30,000 workers needed for the Great Pyramid project. You live in a mud brick house with several other workers, sleeping on reed mats with a small wooden headrest that serves as your pillow. The house is basic but sturdy, with thick walls that keep the interior cool during the blazing Egyptian days and warm during the surprisingly cold desert nights. You stumble outside, your joints protesting from yesterday's work, and make your way to the communal washing area. The water is cool and refreshing, drawn from channels connected to the Nile River. This isn't just for comfort. Cleanliness is essential in the desert environment where infection and disease can spread rapidly among large groups of workers. The ancient Egyptians understood hygiene in ways that many civilizations wouldn't grasp for thousands of years. Your first meal of the day is substantial because it needs to fuel you for the next 12 hours of grueling physical labor. The workers' kitchens are massive operations, capable of feeding thousands of people daily. You receive a portion of bread, thick and hearty, made from emmer wheat. There's also a serving of beer, not for pleasure, but because it's safer to drink than water, and provides essential calories and nutrients. If you're lucky, there might be some dried fish, onions, or garlic. The ancient Egyptians knew that workers performing heavy labor needed protein and vegetables to maintain their strength. But here's where your day really begins to differ from anything you've experienced in the modern world. After breakfast, you gather with your work gang. These aren't random groupings. They're carefully organized teams of about 20 workers each, led by experienced foremen who have been working on pyramid construction for years. Your gang has a name, something like Friends of Khufu or Drunkards of Menkaure. These names weren't just for identification. They created a sense of identity and competition between different work groups. The work itself depends on your specific role in the construction process. If you're part of the quarrying team, your day involves extracting massive limestone blocks from the quarries located just south of the pyramid site. This isn't simply hitting rocks with hammers. The ancient Egyptians had developed sophisticated techniques for extracting building stones. You use copper tools to cut precise channels around the desired block, then insert wooden wedges into the channels. Water is poured onto the wedges, causing them to expand and slowly, methodically crack the stone along predetermined lines. Each block you help extract weighs between 2.5 and 15 tons. To put that in perspective, the average modern car weighs about 1.5 tons. You're dealing with stones that weigh as much as 10 cars, and you're expected to help move them with nothing but rope, wooden levers, and human muscle power. The precision required is extraordinary. These blocks need to fit together so perfectly that even today, you can't slide a knife blade between them. If you're part of the transport team, your day involves moving these massive stones from the quarry to the pyramid site. This is where the real ingenuity of ancient Egyptian engineering becomes apparent. You're not dragging these blocks across sand, as many people imagine. Instead, you're working with a sophisticated system of ramps and sledges that represent some of the most advanced engineering of the ancient world. The sledges are carefully constructed wooden platforms designed to distribute the weight of the massive stones. But here's the crucial detail that most people don't realize. You're not pulling these sledges across dry sand. Teams of workers go ahead of you, pouring water onto the sand to create the optimal level of moisture for reducing friction. Too little water, and the sledge won't slide. Too much water, and it creates suction that makes movement impossible. The ancient Egyptians had to determine the exact amount of water needed, and they did this through centuries of trial and error. As you pull on the heavy ropes, coordinating your movements with dozens of other workers, you're part of a precisely choreographed operation. Commands are called out in rhythm, helping everyone pull at exactly the same moment. The ropes themselves are technological marvels, twisted from thousands of individual plant fibers to create cables strong enough to move multi-ton loads without breaking. But the real challenge comes when you reach the ramps leading up to the pyramid itself. These ramps are another marvel of ancient engineering, carefully designed inclines that allow workers to move massive stones to ever-increasing heights. The ramps are made of mud brick and stone, reinforced with wooden supports, and they spiral around the pyramid as it rises. As the pyramid gets taller, the ramps get longer and steeper, making your job progressively more difficult. Imagine pulling a 10-ton block up a 7-degree incline in the blazing Egyptian sun. The temperature can reach 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and there's no shade on the ramps. The work requires not just strength, but incredible endurance and coordination. One wrong step, one moment of lost concentration, and the massive stone could roll backward, crushing anyone in its path. The positioning of each block requires extraordinary precision. You're working with master masons who have spent decades perfecting their craft. They use tools that look deceptively simple, copper squares and plumb lines, to ensure that each stone is placed with millimeter accuracy. The entire structure depends on this precision. One poorly placed block could compromise the integrity of the entire pyramid. Your midday meal is taken in whatever shade you can find, usually in the shadow of the pyramid itself. The food is similar to breakfast, but might include some vegetables or legumes. You have about an hour to rest, and you need every minute of it. Your body is already exhausted, your hands are raw from handling rough ropes, and your back aches from hours of coordinated pulling and lifting. The afternoon brings different challenges. If you're working on the upper levels of the pyramid, you're dealing with increasingly complex logistical problems. How do you get materials to a construction site that's hundreds of feet above the ground? How do you maintain the precision required for proper construction when you're working at such heights? The ancient Egyptians solved these problems with a combination of ingenious engineering and careful planning that we're still trying to fully understand. As the sun begins to set, your workday isn't over. There's equipment to be cleaned and stored, ramps to be maintained, and preparation for tomorrow's work. The pyramid construction site never truly sleeps. Even after the main work gangs finish for the day, there are night shifts maintaining the infrastructure, preparing materials, and continuing the endless logistical operation that keeps the construction moving forward. Your evening meal is the most substantial of the day. The workers' kitchens prepare hearty stews with meat, vegetables, and grains. There's more beer, and sometimes even wine for workers who have performed particularly well. This isn't just sustenance, it's recognition of the incredible physical demands placed on your body. The ancient Egyptians understood that workers performing such labor needed substantial nutrition to maintain their health and strength. After dinner, you might have some time for socialization. Workers gather in small groups, sharing stories, playing games, or simply resting their weary bodies. Some workers have families living in the workers' village, and they spend time with their wives and children. Others use the time to maintain their tools or personal equipment. But even your rest time is shaped by the demands of pyramid construction. You go to bed early because you need to be up before dawn. Your sleep is often interrupted by the sounds of the night shift workers, the constant background noise of one of the largest construction projects in human history. Your body needs time to recover from the day's exertion, to repair muscles strained by hauling massive stones, to heal hands cut by rough ropes and tools. And through it all, you're part of something unprecedented in human history. You're helping to build a structure that will stand for over 4,000 years, that will inspire wonder and speculation for countless generations. You're part of a workforce that represents the pinnacle of ancient Egyptian organization, engineering, and ambition. The social dynamics of the workers' village create a unique community unlike anything in the ancient world. Despite the grueling nature of your work, there's a sense of pride and camaraderie among the builders. The work gangs compete with each other, not just in moving stones, but in maintaining quality and precision. The gang leaders take pride in their team's accomplishments, and workers know that their names will be inscribed in the stones they place, marking their contribution to the Pharaoh's eternal monument. The healthcare system supporting the pyramid workers is remarkably sophisticated for the ancient world. When workers are injured, and injuries are common in such dangerous work, They're treated by physicians who have studied at temple medical schools. These doctors can set broken bones, treat infections, and perform minor surgeries. Archaeological evidence shows that workers who suffered serious injuries, like broken legs or crushed hands, often survived and continued to live in the workers' village, suggesting they were cared for even when they could no longer perform heavy labor. The organization of work follows a carefully planned rotation system. Not all 20,000 to 30,000 workers are on site at the same time. Many are farmers who work on the pyramid during the inundation season, when their fields are flooded by the Nile and agricultural work is impossible. These seasonal workers spend about 3 to 4 months at the pyramid site before returning to their farms. This rotation system allows the project to continue year-round, while minimizing the disruption to Egypt's agricultural economy. Your living conditions, while basic, are better than those of many workers in ancient civilizations. The workers' village has been carefully planned with proper drainage, regular waste removal, and access to clean water. The houses are arranged in organized rows with communal areas for socializing and recreation. There are even small shrines where workers can make offerings to the gods, seeking protection for their dangerous work and blessings for their families back home. The food quality and quantity you receive as a pyramid worker would be envied by many common Egyptians. Recent archaeological analysis of food remains from the workers' village reveals that the diet included not just bread and beer, but regular portions of meat, particularly beef and mutton. This protein-rich diet was essential for maintaining the strength needed for heavy labor. Workers also received fish from the Nile, vegetables like onions and garlic, known for their health benefits, and even occasional luxuries like honey. The brewing operations that produce your daily beer ration are massive undertakings. The beer you drink isn't like modern beer. It's thick and nutritious, almost like liquid bread, providing essential calories and nutrients. The brewing process also makes the beverage safer to drink than water, which can carry diseases. Each worker receives several liters of beer per day, not for intoxication, but as a crucial part of their nutritional intake. As night falls and you finally rest your exhausted body, you might reflect on the strange paradox of your existence. Your work is brutally hard, demanding everything your body can give, and then some. Yet you're also part of an elite group, chosen for your strength and reliability, fed better than most Egyptians, and contributing to a project that everyone knows will outlast kingdoms and dynasties. The Great Pyramid of Giza, when completed, will contain over 2.3 million stone blocks, each precisely cut and placed. It will rise to a height of 481 feet, making it the tallest human-made structure in the world for over 3,800 years. The precision of its construction will be so extraordinary that the base is level 2 within just 2.1 centimeters, and the entire structure is aligned to true north, with an accuracy of 3/60th of a degree. But as you lie on your reed mat at the end of another exhausting day, you're not thinking about the wonder and admiration that future generations will feel for your work. You're thinking about tomorrow's labor, about the massive stones still waiting to be moved, about the ache in your muscles and the rough texture of the ropes that will be in your hands again in just a few hours. You're thinking about the foreman's praise when your gang successfully positioned a particularly difficult block today. You're remembering the moment when thousands of workers pulled together in perfect synchronization, their voices rising in unified chants that echoed across the Giza plateau. This is what it truly meant to be a pyramid builder in ancient Egypt. Not a slave driven by whips, but a skilled worker performing some of the most demanding physical labor in human history. A participant in humanity's first great construction project. A member of a community that would be remembered for millennia, even if your individual name would be forgotten. Tomorrow, we'll explore the remarkable life of Pharaoh Khufu, the man whose vision and ambition made this incredible construction project possible. The pharaoh behind the monument, Khufu's vision and legacy. Now that we've experienced the grueling reality of pyramid construction through the eyes of the workers, let's turn our attention to the man who made it all possible. The pharaoh whose vision, ambition, and sheer force of will transformed the Egyptian landscape forever. This is the story of Khufu, known to the Greeks as Cheops, the fourth pharaoh of Egypt's fourth dynasty, and arguably one of the most influential rulers in human history. But here's something that might surprise you. Despite commissioning the most famous monument on Earth, Khufu remains one of the most enigmatic figures of ancient Egypt. We know remarkably little about the man himself, and much of what we think we know comes from sources written thousands of years after his death. The real Khufu, the human being behind the monument, is a figure shrouded in mystery, contradiction, and the inevitable distortions of time. Khufu came to power around 2589 BCE, ascending to the throne of Egypt during what historians call the Old Kingdom period, a time when Egyptian civilization was reaching unprecedented heights of organization, artistry, and architectural achievement. He was the son of Sneferu, himself a prolific pyramid builder who constructed 3 major pyramids during his reign. This wasn't a family that thought small. But to understand Khufu's decision to build the Great Pyramid, we need to understand the world he inherited. Egypt in the 26th century BCE was unlike any civilization that had existed before. The unification of Upper and Lower Egypt under the first pharaohs had created a unified kingdom stretching over 600 miles along the Nile River. This wasn't just a political achievement. It was a logistical and administrative marvel that required unprecedented levels of organization. The pharaoh wasn't simply a king in the way we understand monarchy today. He was considered the living embodiment of the god Horus, the son of Ra, the sun god, and the earthly representative of divine power. When Khufu spoke, it wasn't just the voice of a ruler, it was the voice of the gods themselves. This divine status wasn't merely ceremonial, it was the foundation of Egyptian society, the organizing principle that made massive construction projects like the Great Pyramid not just possible, but inevitable. Khufu's reign began during a period of remarkable prosperity. The annual flooding of the Nile had been particularly reliable, ensuring abundant harvests that could feed large populations. Trade networks extended throughout the ancient world, bringing exotic materials and wealth into Egypt. The administrative systems developed by his predecessors had created a bureaucracy capable of managing complex, long-term projects involving thousands of workers across multiple decades. But Khufu faced challenges that would have overwhelmed lesser rulers. The construction of royal pyramids wasn't just about building monuments, it was about demonstrating the pharaoh's divine power and ensuring his successful journey to the afterlife. Each pharaoh needed to surpass his predecessors to prove that the gods favored him above all others. Khufu's father, Sneferu, had already built 3 pyramids, including the first true pyramid at Dosha. How could Khufu possibly exceed such achievements? The answer lay in scale, precision, and permanence. Khufu's pyramid wouldn't just be larger than his father's. It would be larger than any structure ever built by human hands. It would be constructed with such precision that it would serve as a testament to Egyptian engineering for millennia. It would be positioned with such astronomical accuracy that it would demonstrate the pharaoh's connection to the cosmic order itself. The decision to build the Great Pyramid at Giza wasn't arbitrary. Khufu and his architects carefully selected the site for multiple reasons. The Giza Plateau provided a stable limestone foundation capable of supporting the immense weight of the structure. The location was close enough to the Nile to facilitate transportation of materials, but elevated enough to provide the dramatic visual impact appropriate for a pharaoh's eternal resting place. The site also offered access to local limestone quarries, reducing the logistical challenges of construction. But the most remarkable aspect of Khufu's vision was the sheer audacity of the project's scale. The Great Pyramid, when completed, would contain over 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing between 2.5 and 15 tons. The structure would rise to a height of 481 feet, making it the tallest building in the world for over 3,800 years. The precision of construction would be so extraordinary that the base would be level 2 within 2.1 centimeters, and the entire structure would be aligned to true north with an accuracy of 3/60th of a degree. These weren't just impressive statistics. They represented a complete transformation of human capability. No civilization had ever attempted construction on this scale. No ruler had ever commanded the resources, organization, and technical expertise required for such a project. Khufu was essentially inventing megascale construction, creating the administrative and engineering systems that would make the Great Pyramid possible. The planning phase alone must have been extraordinary. Khufu's architects and engineers had to solve problems that had never been encountered before. How do you organize a workforce of 20,000 to 30,000 people? How do you feed them, house them, and manage their labor efficiently? How do you quarry, transport, and position over 2 million stone blocks with Bronze Age technology? How do you maintain the precision required for proper construction while working at such an enormous scale? The answers required innovations in every aspect of organization and engineering. Khufu's administrators developed new systems for managing large workforces, including specialized housing complexes, MASS feeding operations, and medical facilities for treating injured workers. His engineers created new techniques for quarrying stone, including the use of copper tools and wooden wedges to extract blocks with unprecedented precision. His architects designed ramp systems that could transport massive stones to heights of nearly 500 feet. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Khufu's achievement was the time frame. The Great Pyramid was completed in approximately 20 years, meaning that workers had to quarry, transport, and position an average of 300 stone blocks every day for 2 decades. This required not just physical capability, but logistical coordination that wouldn't be matched in human history until the industrial age. The financial and resource requirements were staggering. Some estimates suggest that the Great Pyramid consumed the equivalent of Egypt's entire gross domestic product for several years. The project required not just the labor of construction workers, but the support of farmers to feed them, craftsmen to make tools, administrators to manage the logistics, and specialists in dozens of different trades. The entire Egyptian economy was essentially reorganized around the construction of Khufu's pyramid. Yet despite the enormous scale and complexity of the project, Khufu maintained personal involvement in every aspect of the construction. Ancient records suggest that he regularly visited the construction site, consulted with architects and engineers, and made decisions about design modifications. This wasn't a ruler who simply ordered others to build his monument. This was a hands-on manager who understood that his eternal legacy depended on the success of the project. The pyramid's interior design reflected Khufu's understanding of both practical and religious requirements. The structure contains 3 chambers. The subterranean chamber, carved from the bedrock beneath the pyramid. The Queen's chamber, located within the pyramid itself. And the King's chamber, positioned at the heart of the structure. Each chamber served specific functions in the complex religious rituals surrounding the pharaoh's death and journey to the afterlife. The king's chamber, where Khufu's mummy would eventually rest, was constructed entirely of red granite blocks, each weighing several tons and transported from quarries over 500 miles away at Aswan. The precision of the chamber's construction is extraordinary. The walls are perfectly vertical, the corners are exact right angles, and the entire room is positioned at the precise center of the pyramid's mass. This wasn't just a burial chamber. It was a masterpiece of engineering designed to last for eternity. The pyramid's exterior was originally covered with highly polished white limestone casing stones that made the entire structure gleam like a beacon in the desert sun. These casing stones were cut and fitted with such precision that the pyramid's surface appeared perfectly smooth from a distance. The effect would have been breathtaking. A gleaming white monument rising from the desert that could be seen for miles in every direction. But Khufu's vision extended beyond just the pyramid itself. The Great Pyramid was part of a larger complex that included smaller pyramids for his queens, mastaba tombs for his courtiers, temples for religious ceremonies, and causeways connecting the various structures. The entire complex was designed as a self-contained city of the dead, a place where the pharaoh's spirit could continue to rule in the afterlife. The religious significance of the pyramid cannot be overstated. In ancient Egyptian belief, the pharaoh's successful journey to the afterlife wasn't just a personal matter. It was essential for the continued prosperity and stability of the entire kingdom. The pyramid served as a machine for transformation, a precisely designed structure that would facilitate the pharaoh's metamorphosis from mortal ruler to eternal god. The pyramid's orientation and internal passages were aligned with specific stars and constellations that held religious significance. The structure was designed to capture and channel cosmic energies to serve as a bridge between the earthly realm and the divine. Every aspect of the pyramid's construction, from the materials used to the precise angles of the passages, was determined by religious requirements that we're still trying to fully understand. As construction progressed, Khufu faced numerous challenges that tested his resolve and leadership. Weather disruptions could halt work for weeks at a time. Equipment failures required constant repairs and replacements. Worker injuries and illnesses threatened the project's timeline. Political pressures from nobles who questioned the enormous resources devoted to the pyramid required careful management. Yet through it all, Khufu maintained his commitment to the project, demonstrating the kind of long-term vision that few leaders in history have possessed. The completion of the Great Pyramid around 2566 BCE marked the pinnacle of Old Kingdom achievement. The structure stood as a testament to human ingenuity, organizational capability, and sheer determination. It demonstrated that with sufficient vision, resources, and commitment, humans could achieve what seemed impossible. The pyramid wasn't just Khufu's tomb. It was a declaration that Egyptian civilization had reached heights that no other culture had ever attained. Khufu's personal life remains shrouded in mystery, but archaeological evidence suggests he maintained the traditional pharaonic practice of multiple marriages to strengthen political alliances and ensure succession. His principal wife was likely Queen Meritites, though he also married Queen Henitzen, who may have been his half-sister. Following the royal custom of keeping bloodlines pure and consolidating power within the royal family, these marriages weren't simply romantic arrangements. They were strategic decisions that reinforced the divine nature of pharaonic rule and created complex webs of loyalty among Egypt's noble families. The pharaoh's daily responsibilities extended far beyond overseeing pyramid construction. Khufu presided over religious ceremonies that were essential to maintaining cosmic order what the Egyptians called mat. Each morning, he participated in rituals designed to ensure the sun would rise, the Nile would flood, and Egypt would remain prosperous. These weren't empty ceremonies. They were the foundation of Egyptian belief, and the pharaoh's performance of these rituals was considered essential to the kingdom's survival. Khufu also served as Egypt's supreme judge, hearing cases that couldn't be resolved by lower courts. The concept of divine kingship meant that the pharaoh's judgment was considered infallible, the direct expression of divine will. This judicial role required Khufu to maintain detailed knowledge of Egyptian law and customs, balancing traditional precedents with the practical needs of governing a vast kingdom. Court records suggest that Khufu took this responsibility seriously, sometimes spending hours hearing testimony and considering evidence before rendering judgment. The diplomatic aspects of Khufu's reign were equally demanding. Egypt during the 4th dynasty maintained extensive trade networks throughout the ancient world. Cedar wood from Lebanon, precious stones from Sinai, exotic goods from Punt, and luxury items from Mesopotamia all flowed into Egypt through carefully maintained diplomatic relationships. Khufu had to manage these relationships through a combination of trade agreements, diplomatic marriages, and occasional military expeditions to protect Egyptian interests. The military dimension of Khufu's rule is often overlooked in discussions focused on pyramid construction. But maintaining Egypt's borders and trade routes required constant vigilance. Inscriptions from his reign mention expeditions to Sinai to secure turquoise mines and military campaigns to protect trade routes through Nubia. These weren't wars of conquest in the way we might imagine them, but rather police actions designed to maintain Egyptian control over valuable resources and strategic locations. Khufu's relationship with Egypt's provincial governors was a delicate balancing act. These powerful nobles controlled vast territories and commanded significant resources. Khufu needed their support for the pyramid project, but he also had to prevent any single noble from becoming powerful enough to challenge royal authority. He managed this through a sophisticated system of appointments, marriages, and the strategic distribution of honors and privileges that kept the nobility dependent on royal favor while giving them enough autonomy to manage their regions effectively. The selection of architects and engineers for the pyramid project reveals Khufu's eye for talent and his willingness to elevate skilled individuals, regardless of their birth. Hemunu, who served as vizier and likely as chief architect for the Great Pyramid, came from a noble family but earned his position through demonstrated competence rather than birth alone. This meritocratic approach ensured that the pyramid project attracted the brightest minds in Egypt, creating an intellectual environment that fostered innovation and problem-solving. Khufu's decision to build his pyramid at Giza, rather than at traditional royal burial sites, represented a bold break with precedent. Previous pharaohs had built their pyramids at sites like Saqqara and Dosha, but Khufu chose to establish a completely new royal necropolis. This decision wasn't arbitrary. Giza offered superior geological conditions, better access to water transportation, and proximity to limestone quarries. But it also represented Khufu's confidence in his ability to establish new traditions rather than simply following old ones. The economic impact of the pyramid project on Egyptian society was profound and complex. While the project consumed enormous resources, it also stimulated economic activity throughout the kingdom. The need to feed and supply 20,000 to 30,000 workers created demand for agricultural products, textiles, tools, and countless other goods. The project essentially functioned as a massive public works program, redistributing wealth throughout Egyptian society and creating opportunities for economic advancement that might not have existed otherwise. Khufu's management of Egypt's priesthood demonstrated his political acumen. The priests wielded enormous influence through their control of temples and their role as intermediaries between the gods and humanity. Khufu maintained their support by lavishing gifts on major temples, creating new religious endowments, and ensuring that the pyramid project was framed as a sacred duty rather than a personal vanity project. This religious framing was essential for maintaining public support for the decades-long construction effort. The innovation in administrative systems developed during Khufu's reign would influence Egyptian government for centuries. The complex record-keeping required for pyramid construction led to advances in mathematics, particularly in geometry and calculation. The logistical systems developed to move materials across long distances influenced Egyptian military organization. The management techniques used to coordinate thousands of workers became templates for organizing labor on future projects throughout Egyptian history. But here's where the story takes an ironic turn. Despite creating the most famous monument in human history, Khufu himself became increasingly mysterious as the centuries passed. Later, Egyptian sources, written long after his death, portrayed him as a tyrant who enslaved his people to build his monument. Greek historians like Herodotus repeated these stories, creating a legend of Khufu as a cruel despot who bankrupted his kingdom for personal glory. Modern archaeology has revealed a very different picture. The workers who built the pyramid were well-fed, well-housed, and well-treated. They were skilled craftsmen and laborers who took pride in their work, not slaves driven by whips. The pyramid's construction represented a remarkable achievement in human cooperation, not exploitation. Yet, the legend of Khufu, the tyrant, persisted, overshadowing the reality of Khufu, the visionary. Perhaps this is fitting. The Great Pyramid has outlasted the civilization that built it, the religion that inspired it, and the pharaoh who commissioned it. It stands today as a monument to human achievement that transcends the individual who made it possible. Khufu achieved the kind of immortality that few humans can claim, but at the cost of his own historical identity. The pyramid continues to inspire wonder and speculation more than 4,500 years after its completion. It has survived earthquakes, invasions, and the passage of millennia. It has been studied by countless scholars, explored by adventurers, and admired by millions of visitors. It remains one of humanity's greatest achievements, a testament to what we can accomplish when vision, resources, and determination combine. And at the heart of it all was Khufu, the pharaoh whose ambition and vision transformed the impossible into the inevitable. A ruler who understood that true immortality comes not from living forever, but from creating something that will endure long after you're gone. In that sense, Khufu's gamble paid off in ways that even he might not have imagined. The Great Pyramid stands today as Khufu's ultimate legacy, a monument to human achievement that continues to inspire and mystify us, thousands of years after its completion. But as we'll discover in our next segment, the pyramid holds secrets that go far beyond even Khufu's remarkable vision. The hidden mysteries and archaeological revelations. We've walked in the footsteps of the pyramid builders and explored the vision of Pharaoh Khufu. But now we enter perhaps the most intriguing chapter of our story. The Great Pyramid of Giza holds secrets that have puzzled archaeologists, engineers, and historians for centuries. Despite being the most studied monument in human history, it continues to reveal new mysteries that challenge our understanding of ancient Egyptian capabilities and leave us wondering what other secrets might still be hidden within its massive stone walls. The first great mystery begins with a simple question. How did the ancient Egyptians achieve such extraordinary precision with Bronze Age tools? When modern surveyors first measured the Great Pyramid in the 19th century, they were stunned by what they discovered. The base of the pyramid is level 2 within just 2.1 centimeters across its entire 230-meter width. To put this in perspective, this is more accurate than most modern construction projects. The pyramid is oriented to true north with an accuracy of 3/60th of a degree, a precision that wouldn't be matched in European construction until the development of sophisticated surveying instruments in the 18th century. But here's where it gets even more mysterious. The ancient Egyptians didn't just achieve this precision once. They maintained it throughout the entire construction process. Every stone block had to be positioned with millimeter accuracy to maintain the pyramid's perfect geometric form. Over 2.3 million blocks, each weighing several tons, were placed with such exactness that even today you can't slide a knife blade between them. This level of precision required not just skilled craftsmanship, but a system of quality control and measurement that we're still trying to fully understand. The tools found at pyramid construction sites add another layer to the mystery. Archaeologists have discovered copper chisels, wooden levers, hemp ropes, and stone hammers. Tools that seem almost primitive compared to the monumental task they accomplished. Yet somehow, with these simple implements, ancient Egyptian workers achieved levels of precision that would challenge modern construction crews equipped with laser levels and computer-controlled machinery. Recent archaeological discoveries have begun to shed light on some of these mysteries. In 2017, an international team of researchers using advanced imaging technology discovered a previously unknown void within the Great Pyramid. This chamber, dubbed the Big Void, is located above the Grand Gallery and is roughly 100 feet long. The discovery was made using cosmic ray imaging, a technique that detects empty spaces by measuring how cosmic rays are absorbed by dense materials like stone. The existence of this void raises fascinating questions. Why was it built? What was its purpose? The chamber appears to have a similar structure to the Grand Gallery below it, suggesting it might have served a similar function in the pyramid's construction or religious ceremonies. But after thousands of years of study, we're still no closer to understanding its true purpose. This discovery highlights one of the most intriguing aspects of pyramid archaeology. The more we learn, the more we realize how much we don't know. The Great Pyramid isn't just a pile of stones. It's a sophisticated machine designed for purposes we're still trying to understand. The internal passages, chambers, and architectural features all serve specific functions in what appears to be a complex system of religious and practical engineering. The mystery deepens when we consider the pyramid's mathematical and astronomical properties. The Great Pyramid's dimensions encode several important mathematical relationships. The ratio of the pyramid's height to its base perimeter is remarkably close to the relationship between a circle's radius and its circumference, essentially encoding the mathematical constant pi. The pyramid's base perimeter, when divided by its height, equals pi to several decimal places. This raises profound questions about ancient Egyptian mathematical knowledge. Did they understand pi as a mathematical concept, or did they arrive at this relationship through empirical observation and experimentation? The precision of the relationship suggests sophisticated mathematical understanding. Yet no Egyptian mathematical texts from this period demonstrate knowledge of pi as an abstract concept. The astronomical alignments of the Great Pyramid present another layer of mystery. The pyramid's passages are aligned with specific stars and constellations that held religious significance for the ancient Egyptians. The descending passage points toward the pole star as it appeared in Khufu's time, while the ascending passage aligns with the star Thuban, which served as the pole star during the Old Kingdom period. But here's where it gets really interesting. The pyramid's internal chambers are aligned with specific constellations that the ancient Egyptians associated with their gods. The king's chamber appears to be aligned with the constellation Orion, which the Egyptians identified with Osiris, the god of the dead. The queen's chamber may be aligned with the star Sirius, associated with the goddess Isis. These alignments weren't accidental. They were precise calculations designed to connect the pharaoh's burial place with the cosmic order. The discovery of these alignments has led to theories about the pyramid's function as an astronomical instrument. Some researchers suggest that the pyramid served as a giant observatory, allowing ancient Egyptian astronomers to track the movements of stars and planets with unprecedented accuracy. The internal passages might have functioned as telescopes, focusing starlight and allowing for precise observations of celestial events. Recent archaeological work has also revealed new information about the pyramid's construction techniques. In 2013, archaeologists discovered the remains of a sophisticated harbor system at Giza, complete with canals, docks, and storage facilities. This harbor complex was used to transport massive stone blocks from quarries hundreds of miles away. The discovery helps explain how the ancient Egyptians managed the logistics of moving millions of tons of stone to the construction site. The harbor discovery also revealed evidence of a sophisticated administrative system that managed the pyramid's construction. Archaeologists found papyrus documents that detail the daily activities of work gangs, including records of stone deliveries, worker assignments, and supply distributions. These documents provide unprecedented insight into the organizational systems that made the pyramid's construction possible. One of the most remarkable discoveries came in 1954, when archaeologists uncovered a sealed pit next to the Great Pyramid containing a completely intact ancient Egyptian boat. The boat, made of cedar wood and measuring 143 feet long, was found disassembled but complete, with all its original parts preserved for over 4,500 years. The discovery of this solar boat provided new insights into ancient Egyptian religious beliefs and boat-building techniques. The boat's construction is a masterpiece of ancient engineering. It was built entirely without nails, using a sophisticated system of ropes and wooden pegs to hold the hull together. The craftsmanship is so precise that when the boat was reassembled, it was completely watertight. The boat's design suggests it was built for actual use, not just ceremonial purposes, leading to speculation about its role in the pharaoh's funeral rituals. But the boat's discovery also raised new questions. Why was it buried next to the pyramid? What was its intended function? The boat appears to have been designed for river travel, but its placement suggests it was meant to facilitate the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. Some researchers theorize that the boat was used to transport the pharaoh's mummy to the pyramid, while others suggest it was intended for the pharaoh's spiritual journey through the underworld. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have revealed that there may be additional chambers and passages within the Great Pyramid that haven't been discovered yet. These surveys have detected anomalies in the pyramid's internal structure that suggest the presence of voids or different materials. However, exploring these potential discoveries is complicated by the need to preserve the pyramid's structural integrity. The mystery of the pyramid's missing capstone adds another intriguing element to our exploration. Historical accounts suggest that the pyramid was originally topped with a pyramidion, a small pyramid-shaped capstone that may have been made of gold or electrum. This capstone would have created a brilliant focal point at the pyramid's apex, visible for miles across the desert. But the capstone disappeared sometime in antiquity, and no trace of it has ever been found. The loss of the capstone raises questions about the pyramid's original appearance and function. Was the capstone simply decorative, or did it serve a specific purpose in the pyramid's design? Some theories suggest the capstone was designed to focus sunlight or serve as a beacon. Others propose it had religious significance, representing the pharaoh's connection to the sun god Ra. Recent discoveries have also revealed the existence of a vast underground network of chambers and passages beneath the Giza plateau. These subterranean features, discovered using ground-penetrating radar and other non-invasive techniques, suggest that the pyramid complex was far more extensive than previously imagined. Some of these underground features may be natural caves or quarries, while others appear to be artificially constructed. The discovery of these underground features has led to speculation about hidden chambers and treasure rooms that might still exist beneath the pyramid. While no such chambers have been definitively identified, the possibility continues to intrigue archaeologists and treasure hunters alike. The underground network might have served practical purposes, such as drainage or storage, or it might have had religious significance related to the pharaoh's journey to the underworld. One of the most persistent mysteries involves the pyramid's internal air shafts. These narrow passages, only about 8 inches square, extend from the king's and queen's chambers toward the pyramid's exterior. For decades, archaeologists assumed these were ventilation shafts designed to provide fresh air to the burial chambers. However, recent investigations have revealed that these shafts don't actually connect to the outside air. Instead, the shafts appear to be precisely aligned with specific stars and constellations. The shafts from the king's chamber point toward the constellation Orion and the star Thuban, while the shafts from the queen's chamber align with the star Sirius and the constellation Draco. This suggests that the shafts weren't designed for ventilation at all, but served as spiritual pathways connecting the pharaoh's burial chamber with the stars. The discovery of the true purpose of these shafts has revolutionized our understanding of the pyramid's religious function. Rather than being simply a tomb, the pyramid appears to have been designed as a sophisticated religious machine, a structure that would facilitate the pharaoh's transformation into a god and his journey to the afterlife. Every aspect of the pyramid's internal architecture was carefully designed to serve this spiritual purpose. Recent chemical analysis of the pyramid's stones has revealed another mystery. The limestone blocks used in the pyramid's construction contain trace elements that suggest they came from multiple quarries, not just the local Giza quarries as previously thought. This indicates that the ancient Egyptians were selecting specific types of stone for different parts of the pyramid, perhaps for structural or religious reasons. The precision of the pyramid's construction becomes even more remarkable when we consider the tools and techniques available to ancient Egyptian builders. They had no iron tools, no wheels, no pulleys, and no mechanical advantage beyond simple levers and ramps. Yet they achieved levels of precision and scale that wouldn't be matched until the development of modern construction techniques. Perhaps the greatest mystery of all is how the ancient Egyptians acquired the knowledge and skills necessary to build the pyramid. The Great Pyramid represents such a leap forward in human capability that it seems almost impossible that it could have been built by a Bronze Age civilization. The mathematical precision, astronomical alignments, and engineering sophistication all suggest levels of knowledge that we're still trying to fully understand. The acoustic properties of the pyramid's chambers present, another fascinating mystery that modern researchers are only beginning to explore. When sound is produced in the king's chamber, it resonates at specific frequencies that some researchers believe were intentionally designed. The granite walls of the chamber, the precise dimensions, and the empty sarcophagus all create acoustic effects that might have had religious significance. Some theories suggest that these acoustic properties were used in rituals, perhaps to create altered states of consciousness or to symbolize the pharaoh's transformation into a god. The mathematical relationships encoded in the pyramid's dimensions go far beyond the well-known pi relationship. The pyramid's height multiplied by 1 billion approximates the distance from Earth to the Sun with remarkable accuracy. The base perimeter divided by twice the height yields a number close to pi. The pyramid's mass, when calculated, appears to relate to the mass of the Earth in ways that seem too precise to be coincidental. These mathematical relationships raise profound questions about what the ancient Egyptians knew and how they knew it. Recent research into the pyramid's construction has revealed evidence of sophisticated surveying techniques that we're still trying to understand. The ancient Egyptians achieved the pyramid's precise alignment to true north using astronomical observations, likely by tracking the movements of stars around the celestial pole. But the precision they achieved, accurate to within 3/60th of a degree, suggests observational techniques and mathematical calculations of extraordinary sophistication. The tools they used, simple sighting instruments made of wood and plumb lines, somehow produced results that rival modern surveying equipment. The discovery of worker graffiti inside the pyramid's internal chambers has provided unexpected insights into construction techniques and timelines. These markings, made by work gangs during construction, include dates, team names, and occasional messages that humanize the massive construction project. One marking references the 17th year of Khufu's reign, providing crucial evidence for dating the pyramid's construction. These graffiti marks also reveal the pride workers took in their labor. With gang names like Friends of Khufu and the White Crown of Khufu is powerful, suggesting loyalty and identification with the project. The mystery of the pyramid's missing casing stones adds another layer to our understanding of the monument's history. Originally, the entire pyramid was covered with highly polished white Tora limestone, creating a smooth, gleaming surface that would have been visible for miles. These casing stones were stripped away over centuries, mostly during the Middle Ages when they were used to build Cairo's, mosques, and palaces. But the few remaining casing stones, still visible at the pyramid's base, demonstrate the extraordinary precision of ancient Egyptian stone cutting. These stones fit together so perfectly that mortar was barely needed, with joints so tight that they're nearly invisible. The internal temperature of the pyramid presents yet another mystery. The temperature inside the king's chamber remains constant at 20 degrees Celsius, or 68 degrees Fahrenheit, regardless of the external temperature. This is roughly the average temperature of the Earth, and some researchers believe this was intentionally designed, though how the ancient Egyptians achieved this thermal regulation remains unclear. The massive stone structure acts as a thermal mass, but the consistency of the internal temperature suggests sophisticated understanding of thermodynamics and climate control. Recent explorations using muon tomography, the same technique that discovered the Big Void, have revealed other potential anomalies within the pyramid structure. These possible voids or density variations suggest that the pyramid may contain additional chambers or passages that haven't been discovered yet. However, confirming these findings requires further investigation, and accessing these potential spaces without damaging the pyramid's structural integrity presents enormous challenges. The chemical composition of the mortar used in pyramid construction has puzzled researchers for decades. Analysis reveals that the mortar contains compounds and has properties that modern cement manufacturers have difficulty replicating. The mortar is stronger than the limestone blocks it holds together, and it has survived for over 4,500 years with minimal degradation. Recent studies suggest the mortar may have been created using sophisticated chemical processes that we're only beginning to understand, possibly involving mineral additions and heating techniques that produced a superior binding material. The quarry marks found on some of the pyramid's internal stones provide clues about the organization of the construction project. These marks indicate which quarry the stone came from, which work gang transported it, and sometimes even which overseer was responsible for that section of work. This system of marking and tracking millions of stone blocks represents an administrative achievement that rivals the engineering accomplishment of the pyramid itself. It suggests a level of organizational sophistication and quality control that wouldn't be matched in construction projects for thousands of years. The alignment of the pyramid with other structures in the Giza complex reveals evidence of master planning on an enormous scale. The three main pyramids at Giza, along with associated temples, causeways, and smaller pyramids, form a carefully planned complex that represents decades of coordinated construction. The mathematical relationships between these structures, their astronomical alignments, and their integration into the landscape suggest a comprehensive vision that guided construction over multiple generations. This master planning required not just engineering skill, but the ability to conceive and execute projects that would span decades and survive the reigns of multiple pharaohs. The discovery of ancient tools at quarry sites has provided insights into pyramid construction techniques, but also raised new questions. Copper chisels found at these sites show where patterns that suggest they were used to cut limestone. Yet copper is a relatively soft metal that shouldn't be capable of such work. Some researchers theorize that the ancient Egyptians used copper tools in combination with abrasive materials like quartz sand, essentially creating primitive saws and drills. Others suggest they may have had access to harder bronze tools than previously thought, or even that they used techniques we haven't yet identified. The ongoing mysteries of the Great Pyramid continue to inspire new research and discoveries. Advanced imaging techniques, chemical analysis, and computer modeling are providing new insights into the pyramid's construction and purpose. Each new discovery seems to reveal additional layers of complexity and sophistication that challenge our assumptions about ancient Egyptian capabilities. As we stand in the shadow of this ancient monument, we're reminded that despite centuries of study, the Great Pyramid still holds secrets that we're only beginning to understand. It remains a testament to human ingenuity and ambition, a structure that continues to inspire wonder and speculation more than 4,500 years after its completion. But as we'll discover in our final segment, the pyramid's most remarkable secret might be the society that made its construction possible. The golden world of ancient Egyptian elite society. We've explored the back-breaking labor of the pyramid builders, delved into the visionary mind of Pharaoh Khufu, and uncovered the enduring mysteries that still puzzle archaeologists today. But to truly understand how the Great Pyramid came to be, we must step into a very different world, one of unimaginable luxury, sophisticated culture, and absolute power. This is the world of ancient Egypt's elite, the nobles, priests, and royal family members who lived in splendor while the greatest monument in human history rose from the desert sands. Picture, if you will, a world where a single individual could command the labor of 30,000 people for 20 years, where the annual harvest of an entire kingdom could be redirected to build a single monument, where the boundary between the earthly and divine was so thin that a pharaoh wasn't just a ruler but a living god. This was the reality of Old Kingdom Egypt, a civilization that had achieved something no human society had ever accomplished before: the complete mobilization of an entire kingdom's resources toward a single, extraordinary goal. The society that built the Great Pyramid was organized in a way that seems almost alien to our modern understanding of social structure. At the very top sat the pharaoh, not merely a king but the living embodiment of the god Horus, the earthly representative of divine will. Below him was a carefully structured hierarchy of nobles, priests, administrators, and skilled craftsmen. each playing a specific role in maintaining the complex machinery of Egyptian civilization. The royal family lived in a world of unprecedented luxury. The pharaoh's palace at Memphis, the administrative capital of Egypt, was a sprawling complex of courtyards, halls, and private chambers decorated with the finest materials the ancient world could provide. The walls were covered with intricate reliefs carved from the finest limestone and painted with brilliant colors that have long since faded. Gold leaf adorned doorways and furniture, while precious stones from distant lands were incorporated into decorative elements throughout the palace. The daily life of Egypt's elite was governed by elaborate rituals and ceremonies that reinforced the divine nature of pharaonic rule. The pharaoh's morning routine began before dawn with purification rituals performed by priests who had undergone years of training in the sacred mysteries. The king would bathe in water that had been blessed by temple priests, dress in linen so fine it was nearly transparent, and adorn himself with jewelry that represented his connection to the gods. The pharaoh's breakfast was a feast that would have fed dozens of ordinary Egyptians. Tables groaned under the weight of fresh bread, fruits, vegetables, and meats from the royal hunting preserves. Wine from the finest vineyards in the Nile Delta was served in golden goblets, while honey, the ancient world's most precious sweetener, was liberally used to flavor delicate pastries. The pharaoh didn't simply eat. He participated in a sacred ritual that connected him to the abundance of the land he ruled. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of elite life in Pyramid-Age Egypt was the sophisticated administrative system that made large-scale projects possible. The pharaoh was supported by a bureaucracy of unprecedented complexity and efficiency. Scribes trained from childhood in the intricate hieroglyphic writing system maintained detailed records of every aspect of kingdom administration. They tracked grain harvests, recorded tax payments, managed work assignments, and coordinated the movement of materials across hundreds of miles. The vizier, the pharaoh's chief minister, was perhaps the most powerful person in Egypt after the pharaoh himself. This individual was responsible for overseeing all aspects of government administration, from tax collection to judicial proceedings to the organization of major construction projects. The vizier's daily routine involved reviewing reports from dozens of regional administrators, making decisions about resource allocation, and ensuring that the pharaoh's will was carried out throughout the kingdom. The administrative complexity required to build the Great Pyramid was staggering. Consider the logistics involved. Over 2.3 million stone blocks had to be quarried, transported, and positioned with mathematical precision. This required coordinating the work of quarrymen, transporters, masons, architects, and support staff across multiple locations over a period of 20 years. Every aspect of the project had to be planned, scheduled, and executed with clockwork precision. The elite administrators who managed this project lived in comfortable homes built around courtyards, with thick mud brick walls that kept the interiors cool during the blazing Egyptian summers. Their houses were furnished with beautifully crafted wooden furniture, linen textiles, and ceramic vessels decorated with intricate patterns. Gardens with pools and shade trees provided respite from the desert heat, while servants attended to every domestic need. The religious establishment formed another crucial component of Egyptian elite society. The high priests of major temples wielded enormous influence, managing vast temple complexes that served as centers of learning, economic activity, and spiritual practice. These priests lived in temple compounds that were essentially cities within cities, complete with libraries, workshops, granaries, and living quarters for hundreds of temple staff. The daily routine of a high priest was governed by elaborate rituals that had been refined over centuries. The morning began with purification ceremonies that could last for hours, involving multiple baths, the burning of incense, and the recitation of prayers that dated back to the earliest periods of Egyptian civilization. The priest would then participate in the daily temple rituals, which included the ceremonial feeding and clothing of the god statue, a process that required precise choreography and absolute attention to detail. But the priests weren't just religious figures, they were also scholars, astronomers, and mathematicians. The temple libraries contained thousands of papyrus scrolls, recording everything from medical procedures to astronomical observations to mathematical calculations. The priests who designed the Great Pyramid's astronomical alignments were drawing on centuries of accumulated knowledge about the movements of stars and planets. The economic system that supported this elite lifestyle was based on the agricultural productivity of the Nile River Valley. The annual flood deposited rich silt across the farmland, creating soil so fertile that Egypt became the breadbasket of the ancient world. The surplus agricultural production was collected as taxes and redistributed to support the pharaoh's court, the religious establishment, and major construction projects. The elite's control over this economic system was absolute. They owned the land, controlled the irrigation systems, and directed the distribution of agricultural surplus. This economic power allowed them to commission works of art, build elaborate tombs, and support the craft specialists who created the luxury goods that defined elite lifestyle. The craftsmen who served the elite were themselves a privileged class. Master sculptors, jewelry makers, furniture builders, and textile workers lived in specialized quarters near the royal palace or major temples. Their skills were highly valued, and they enjoyed a standard of living far above that of ordinary farmers or laborers. These craftsmen created objects of extraordinary beauty and sophistication, works of art that demonstrate the remarkable aesthetic sensibility of ancient Egyptian culture. The elite's tombs provide us with detailed insights into their daily lives and values. The walls of these tombs are covered with scenes depicting the deceased's earthly activities, overseeing agricultural work, participating in religious ceremonies, enjoying banquets with family and friends, and hunting in the marshes of the Nile Delta. These scenes weren't just decorative, they were magical texts designed to ensure that the deceased could continue to enjoy these activities in the afterlife. The tomb of Khufu's mother, Queen Hetepheres, discovered in 1925, contained furniture and personal items that revealed the extraordinary luxury of royal life. The queen's bed was made of wood covered with gold leaf, her chairs were inlaid with precious stones, and her jewelry casket contained items of breathtaking beauty and craftsmanship. Even her cosmetic containers were works of art, demonstrating the aesthetic refinement that characterized elite culture. The education of elite children was a sophisticated process that began in early childhood. Young nobles were taught to read and write hieroglyphics, a skill that required years of study and practice. They learned mathematics, astronomy, and religious texts, while also receiving training in the social graces expected of their class. Physical education included hunting, swimming, and various sports that prepared them for adult responsibilities. The social rituals that governed elite interaction were elaborate and carefully choreographed. Court ceremonies could last for days, involving hundreds of participants in complex displays of hierarchy and precedence. These weren't empty pageantry. They were essential mechanisms for reinforcing the social order and demonstrating the pharaoh's divine authority. The elite's relationship with the pyramid construction project was complex and multifaceted. While the pharaoh was the project's ultimate sponsor and beneficiary, the elite class provided the administrative expertise, financial resources, and skilled oversight that made construction possible. Many nobles saw the pyramid project as an opportunity to demonstrate their loyalty to the pharaoh and enhance their own status through association with the great work. The regional governors who supplied workers and materials for the pyramid project were rewarded with enhanced titles, expanded territories, and increased privileges. The administrators who managed the project's logistics found their careers advanced and their families elevated within the court hierarchy. The priests who designed the pyramids, religious elements gained influence and resources for their temples. But the elite's involvement in the pyramid project also came with responsibilities and risks. The enormous resources devoted to construction meant that other projects and activities had to be curtailed or postponed. The concentration of so much wealth and labor on a single project created economic pressures that required careful management. The elite had to balance their support for the pharaoh's vision with their own interests and the needs of their local communities. The international connections of Egypt's elite were extensive and sophisticated. Egyptian nobles maintained diplomatic relationships with rulers throughout the ancient world, from Mesopotamia to Nubia to the Eastern Mediterranean. These relationships brought exotic goods, new ideas, and skilled craftsmen to Egypt, enriching the cultural life of the elite and providing resources for major construction projects. The elite's leisure activities reflected their sophisticated culture and abundant resources. They enjoyed elaborate banquets featuring exotic foods and entertainment by professional musicians and dancers. Hunting expeditions in the desert provided both recreation and opportunities for displaying skill and courage. Board games like Senet provided intellectual stimulation and social interaction, while religious festivals offered opportunities for both spiritual fulfillment and social display. The clothing and personal adornment of the elite demonstrated their status and wealth. They wore linen garments of extraordinary fineness, often pleated and decorated with intricate patterns. Their jewelry incorporated gold, silver, and precious stones from throughout the ancient world. Their cosmetics and perfumes were prepared by skilled specialists using rare ingredients and sophisticated techniques. The elite's homes were centers of cultural and intellectual activity. Private libraries contained collections of literature, religious texts, and practical manuals. Workshops produced art objects and luxury goods for the household's use. Gardens provided both beauty and practical resources, including herbs for medicine and cooking, fruits and vegetables for the table, and flowers for religious ceremonies. The education system for elite children was remarkably comprehensive and sophisticated. Young nobles began their formal education around age 5, entering temple schools or studying with private tutors who were often retired government officials or priests. The curriculum focused heavily on literacy, as the ability to read and write hieroglyphics was the key to advancement in Egyptian society. Students spent years learning the hundreds of hieroglyphic symbols, practicing their writing on pottery shards called astraca, before graduating to expensive papyrus. Mathematics education was equally rigorous, as administrative and engineering work required sophisticated calculation skills. Elite children learned geometry, which was essential for land surveying and construction projects. They studied arithmetic, learning to work with fractions and solve complex problems related to taxation, resource distribution, and construction planning. The practical nature of Egyptian mathematics, focused on solving real-world problems rather than abstract theory, prepared students for the administrative challenges they would face in their careers. The social rituals surrounding elite meals were elaborate performances that reinforced social hierarchies and cultural values. Banquets could involve dozens of guests, arranged in precise order according to their social rank and relationship to the host. The meal itself was a multi-course affair featuring dishes prepared by specialized cooks who had trained for years in culinary arts. Roasted meats, elaborate breads, fresh fruits, and delicate pastries were served on fine pottery or even gold and silver plates, depending on the host's wealth. Entertainment during these banquets included professional musicians playing harps, lutes, and flutes, creating melodies that accompanied the meal. Dancers performed intricate routines, their movements carefully choreographed to tell stories or honor the gods. Acrobats and performers might demonstrate their skills between courses. These entertainments weren't mere diversions. They were expressions of the host's wealth, taste, and cultural sophistication, carefully calibrated to impress guests and reinforce social bonds. The perfume and cosmetics industry that served the elite was a sophisticated enterprise, involving skilled craftsmen and rare ingredients. Perfumes were created from flower essences, aromatic woods, and spices imported from distant lands. The process of creating perfume involves steeping these materials in oil or fat to extract their fragrances, a technique that required expertise and patience. The most expensive perfumes might contain ingredients like frankincense from Arabia or myrrh from Punt, substances so valuable they were literally worth their weight in gold. Cosmetics served both aesthetic and practical purposes in elite society. Kohl, the black eye makeup that both men and women wore, wasn't just decorative. It protected eyes from the harsh desert sun and may have had antibacterial properties that helped prevent eye infections. Green eye makeup, made from malachite and galena, a lead-based mineral, created striking visual effects while also serving practical purposes. The application of these cosmetics was a daily ritual that could take hours, performed by skilled servants who specialized in beauty treatments. The religious lives of the elite were complex and multifaceted, involving both public ceremonies and private devotions. Wealthy families maintained private chapels in their homes where they could make offerings to their chosen deities and their ancestors. These private religious spaces were elaborately decorated with paintings and reliefs depicting gods and religious scenes. The elite employed priests to perform regular rituals on their behalf, ensuring divine favor for their households and families. The concept of the afterlife was particularly elaborate for the elite, who could afford extensive preparations for their journey after death. Tomb construction often began early in an individual's career, with decades spent perfecting the underground chambers, decorating the walls with scenes from daily life and religious texts, and accumulating the grave goods that would accompany them to the afterlife. The elite commissioned elaborate funerary equipment, including sarcophagi, canopic jars, shabdi figures, and countless other items designed to ensure comfort and success in the afterlife. The network of family relationships among the elite created a complex web of obligations, alliances, and opportunities. Marriages were carefully arranged to strengthen political bonds, consolidate wealth, and maintain social standing. Elite families often married within their class, sometimes even between close relatives, to keep property and power within trusted circles. These marriage alliances could span generations, creating extended family networks that controlled vast resources and wielded enormous influence. The summer estates of the wealthiest nobles provided respite from the heat and dust of the cities. These country properties, located in the cooler northern regions of the Nile, Delta, or in oasis locations, featured extensive gardens with pools and exotic plants. The elite would spend months at these estates during the hottest season, supervising agricultural operations on their lands, while enjoying the relative comfort of their country homes. These estates were essentially self-sufficient communities, complete with workshops, granaries, and housing for hundreds of servants and workers. The transportation available to the elite reflected their privileged status, while common Egyptians walked or used donkeys for transport. Nobles traveled in carrying chairs, borne by servants or in chariots, pulled by horses, a luxury imported from Asia for river travel. The elite commanded elegant boats with cabins, awnings for shade, and crews of skilled sailors. These boats were not just transportation, they were floating palaces, decorated with fine woodwork and equipped with all the comforts of home. The sponsorship of artistic and architectural projects by wealthy nobles contributed to the cultural flowering of Pyramid Age Egypt. Elite patrons commissioned statues, reliefs, and paintings from the finest artists, creating works that demonstrated their taste and piety while supporting craftsmen and advancing artistic techniques. This patronage system created an environment where artists could experiment and innovate, pushing the boundaries of what was technically and aesthetically possible. The system of honors and titles that marked elite status was extraordinarily complex, with dozens of ranks and positions that signified an individual's relationship to the pharaoh and their place in the social hierarchy. Titles like Friend of the King, Overseer of the Royal Works, or Keeper of the Royal Seal weren't just honorary. They came with specific responsibilities, privileges, and access to royal resources. The competition for these titles and the prestige they conferred drove much of elite behavior and political maneuvering. The legacy of Egypt's Pyramid Age elite extended far beyond their own lifetimes. The administrative systems they developed, the artistic traditions they patronized, and the architectural achievements they sponsored influenced civilizations throughout the ancient world. The Great Pyramid itself stands as a testament to their organizational capabilities and cultural sophistication. As we reach the end of our journey through the world of ancient Egypt's pyramid builders, we're left with a profound appreciation for the remarkable civilization that made such achievements possible. The Great Pyramid wasn't just the product of one pharaoh's ambition or the result of advanced engineering techniques. It was the culmination of centuries of cultural development, the expression of a society that had achieved unprecedented levels of organization, sophistication, and artistic achievement. The pyramid stands today as a monument to human capability, a reminder that with vision, resources, and determination, we can achieve what seems impossible. But it also stands as a reminder of the complex social structures, the accumulated knowledge, and the countless individual contributions that make such achievements possible. As you drift off to sleep tonight, perhaps your dream of walking through the halls of an ancient Egyptian palace, participating in the elaborate rituals of a civilization that mastered the art of transforming human ambition into eternal stone. The Great Pyramid continues to inspire us more than 4,500 years after its completion, a testament to the enduring power of human creativity and the remarkable achievements that become possible when an entire civilization dedicates itself to a single, extraordinary goal. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the colossal secrets behind building the Egyptian pyramids. If you enjoyed this exploration of ancient history, please consider subscribing to our channel and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. What aspect of pyramid construction intrigued you most? What other ancient mysteries would you like us to explore? Your engagement helps us continue bringing you these detailed journeys into the past. Until next time, sleep well, and may your dreams be filled with the wonders of ancient civilizations and the remarkable achievements of our human ancestors. The stories of the past continue to inspire us, reminding us that the impossible is often simply the untried, and that human ingenuity knows no bounds when vision meets determination. Sweet dreams, and thank you for being part of our community of history enthusiasts. who find peace and inspiration in the remarkable stories of our shared human heritage.